I thought it was funny. All right, people, let's get this thing started.
All right.
You going to say it?
Hit that button.
Oh.
Recording live from the E. Haley Memorial Studios, straight out of Almont, Ontario, it's time for This Death Clock Has 60 Minutes, your one and only weekly Warmahordes news broadcast. It's 8 p.m. Wednesday night, the beers are cold, the news is fresh, and the death clock starts now.
So we were talking about re-recording the intro.
Yes.
And I was like having this moment the other day where I was like, well, shit, I'm going to have to write a new intro. I wonder who we should do the new Memorial Studios. And I'm like, you know what's funny about this? Is E. Haley's gone. Like, we did this 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Because when we were writing that, there was like the first E. Haley nerf.
Yeah.
And yet, the funny part is there's been like 2 horrible nerfs that will ruin E. Haley forever. She's dead as a caster since then, and she's still in every
Still pretty damn good.
Well, we could as soon as the Cricks one drops, change it to the Danny Memorial.
That's true.
Or the Sisters Memorial or something.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the podcast. It is Wednesday night.
Mm-hmm.
I am back, much to George's chagrin.
Oh, yeah, you weren't here last
I
week.
missed last week. Hey, they can't. You were working on your 18th beer, so you may not remember.
Hey, I cleaned up my area.
Yeah, I see.
Yes. Now you're down to just
See-
an open beer for each
Yeah.
hand.
Yeah.
Before we get started this evening, I want to introduce everybody who's sitting in the panel tonight. Of course, the one and only Maelstrom.
Hi. Shut up.
How was your week in War Machine?
Oh, yeah, it was good. I got 2 games this week, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I played
on
George on Monday,
Mm-hmm.
and then I went to Out of the Box last night, and I played Zach.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Oh,
who I
you got a
haven't-
game against Zach.
Yeah, I haven't
Oh, that's
played
Did
him
he
in,
pull
like,
out his Colossal? He finally got one.
Oh,
He's so excited.
he did not. He played Malachus with the battle engine. And
The
a
Burning
bunch-
Itch with the battle engine
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I dropped Dark Host.
Yeah. How'd that go?
Not well for. So, yeah,
I know his Malachus
I
list.
blinded his Wraith engine.
Oh.
Or not his Wraith engine, his battle engine. Like,
It hurts, Ma.
yeah, and then just
At
yeah.
least that is a purification faction.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, let's move over to my second co-host with the most, the one and only George. How's it going, George?
Pretty good.
How was your week in War Machine?
I had a horrible tournament. Sorry, I shouldn't say that. The tournament itself was lovely.
You had a bit of a table flip week, I think.
Oh my God, table flipping was in the cards. I lost 3 out of my 4 games, and won the one game I did win with 4 models left on the table, and scenarioing out my opponent just barely.
Well, this may
I thought
be
you were
the
going to say a bye.
No, no. I played all my games, but it was so that game was so close that we both thought he was going to win.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, if I kill 2 models and put my caster in the middle of everything, I can score enough points to win.
Yeah.
And so like I ran my caster right to the middle of the table, killed the one thing I needed to, and I managed to pull it out.
Nice.
And then you played a couple games, or you played one game at the pub.
I played one game at the pub against Jason. I have learned that I synergize better with Irisk 2 than Irisk 1.
You personally.
Yes. I'm not saying that he's a bad caster. It's just I am not getting along with him.
Well,
so.
and I'm wondering if you're having trouble at the last tournament is a direct result to having a Khador heavy meta, or at least a lot of people getting used to playing against Khador. That I'm wondering if that has sort of changed.
Well, the problem I found, there's a couple of problems I had at the tournament. One is I don't think Karchev is who I wanted for my heavy spam list.
Gotcha.
I'm going to try Markov 2.
Gotcha.
And we'll see how that works. And I think my Irisk 1 should have been Irisk 2. But most of those, 2 of my losses I can directly contribute to me not wanting to play a boring game and losing. When I decided, you know what, Karchev can just do the shit himself.
Yeah.
And I think I play with a caster that doesn't have 34 boxes, I won't be tempted to do that. I'll hide him behind things and just do the safe plan. But in my game against Jason, it was the 1,000 dude spam versus 1,000 dude spam. It was what?
Statixis and
blood.
Sedixus.
Yes, because you never bothered.
Because I forgot to ambush my fucking blood witches.
I lied at the beginning, and I'm like, you totally don't get ambushed, and you're like, well, screw this noise, and you deployed them, and then we found out before the game had really started, fortunately, that
you lied.
I lied to you, and so you took them and put them in foam. And what did I say? I said, why don't you just push those off to the side so that you'll do them later? And
because I would elbow sweep them right onto the floor.
And what did you do?
Forgot.
Yeah. I want to before we go too much farther, I got to introduce our guest for this evening. We brought on Nick from Combo Smite. Nick, how was your week in War Machine, sir?
I played 2 games this week, which is actually kind of a lot for me lately. I'm playing Mercs exclusively for the next month at least because the rest of my armies are packed because I'm moving. So that's fun anyway, though. I played like a silly kind of Damiano list on the weekend that was like Damiano with a bunch of nomads, but then I had 2 marshaled manglers, one on Meg and one on Rutger, and then it was like just like Chaos Assassins and I think Steelheads or something like that. It was a bunch of infantry. It was just a lot of dudes. And it was just super grindy list, but it had so many heavies that it just could also do a ton of work. And those marshaled manglers, okay, let me tell you this. Okay, marshaled mangler with flank from a Chaos Assassin. It killed Blessing of Salvation with 2 hits.
Nice. Yeah. I've been playing. Well, I've got 1 mangler in my list, and it's been doing work.
It's been mangling all the things.
Well, the nice.
I'm definitely liking the Marshall Manglers because they charge for free, so you can charge and crush. That's the biggest reason. That's like the only thing why it's amazing. And then you get your free charge, and then you get your 2 PS20 Weapon Master attacks, which is pretty good. But I don't know if I want to have 2 of them in lists, but because that's a bit silly. But having 1, like, in pretty much every regulars list, there's a chance you're going to take that.
I'm throwing it in my. I have 1 in my Lely's list, and mainly just because with Choir they get really dumb. They get pretty dumb, and they're a good.
Not as good as with the regulars, but they're still good.
And they're a good way to just clear infantry if you get a large amount of. If you've got a bunch of infantry in front of you, you can run them up, and for the cost of nothing, you can sweep a whole lot of shit out of
them. You can. I mean, Mat 6 is not super good for that, but it's pretty okay.
Jason is confused about P plus S20 Weapon Master.
How's that even possible? Like, that should be outlawed. That's ridiculous. That's overkill.
It is
they
pretty
take out
ridiculous.
like a colossal on a charge.
It's base 18, and then you get +2 damage from crush, and then you get an additional attack. And then when you're flanking, he's going to be a Mat 8 Weapon Master against his target.
Yep.
Oh my god, that is
and so he'll get 2 PS20s, and then he gets a PS 18 from his spike if you get close enough.
So I haven't been doing that yet. Just so you know.
So what does it flank with?
Any infantry.
Yeah, warrior model.
Cool. So we just have to kill all the infantry immediately.
Yeah. Just kill every steelhead ever, and the assassins that have parry.
Super easy. Yeah, super easy.
I was bringing a lot of single wound stuff.
Yeah, I was gonna say this sounds like my steel tide drop.
Yeah.
Well, the good news is your single wound stuff also get cleared out in a 4-inch swath because they can do their Thresher. So
they have Thresher, and again, if you run a steelhead up to spread that beautiful little reach out,
across.
then they're Mat 8 against all the stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Seems good.
Yep, seems good. All right, ladies and gentlemen, tonight's topic is going to be how to get Mercs into your themes. Now that the themes, a few of the themes have been Mercs and minions.
So at the top, there's a little thing that says "Make cards friendly." You click on that.
Oh my god! Well, somebody might not have known.
You know, George.
Oh, now I know. Okay, episode over.
And we're done. No, what we want to do is because the theme change, the tweaks to the theme. Some themes are now allowing Mercs and minions into theme. A lot of themes did not have that opportunity before. So classic examples like Signar Mark II were not happening quite as often. All of a sudden, that has changed. We're seeing a lot more Mercs and minions going into themes. We've also seen some themes that are like the Scorn theme that basically just lets you...
Here's a bunch of minions for you.
Yeah, swap out
do you want to bring some Scorn with your minions?
Yeah, exactly. Don't bother. You've got a
caster. That's good
just
enough.
beast handlers. That's all.
Yeah.
So there's with that change, people that may be new to Mark III or coming back from Mark II we thought we'd give you some advice on how to get your Mercs and minions in your list, which ones are usable, where they fit, and why.
Whether it's good advice or not is questionable.
Oh, totally questionable.
Listen to Nick.
Yeah,
Don't listen to us.
Well,
I mean,
maybe when it comes
I don't know.
to George's Kador, your Crix, and mine.
Yeah.
Well, Nick probably knows more about Mercs than I do. So, yeah, just don't listen to me, really.
Okay. Fair enough.
Pretty much, I think the answer is just put Eilish in every list, no matter what faction you're playing.
I totally agree.
Yeah,
Except
not
for
wrong.
Crix.
It's, because you don't really need
don't
them
really
in
need
Crix, because you've already got all those spells.
Yeah, we got a little
It basically just Crixes up every other faction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good. Good for them.
Before we get into that, let's
Way
talk
to
a bit
join the
about.
meta.
There's not much news to talk about. It's been a
Wow.
quiet week.
Just wow.
Yeah. Wow.
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 So the only
Wow.
thing that was guys, the only thing that was interesting at all was unhorsed dragoons in Company of Iron have been introduced. So you can now add, there's basically a
Yep.
mini one more model that you can play.
Yep.
Have you guys played much Company of Iron?
I have not tried it yet.
I have. I've enjoyed it. So far, I've played 6 or 8 games now.
Yeah,
I've watched
we
some
played-
battle reports.
We played it for a couple weeks on the live stream.
Yep.
Right when it first came out, and I thought it was awesome.
Yep.
But it turns out we just like War Machine better, so we were playing that more.
That's how I figure it'll go. It's a nice distraction.
I think it's a great way to get, as I said before, I think it's a great way to get new players that don't want
Yes.
a complex game
Yeah.
to sort of get their
Yeah.
brains wrapped around a model-based
Yep.
war
It's,
game.
it's also, if you only have an hour,
Yeah.
it's a great game.
Yeah.
Only
you
have an
can-
hour, and it's not your first time playing it.
Oh, yeah, no.
Yeah.
What I mean is, if you played Company of Iron before and you play War Machine, if you keep enough models in your bag to play Company of Iron,
Right.
if you get to the game store late or
Or you're at the
everybody's already
SOO and you
playing-
just you've only got an hour between rounds, and you're like, shit, I just want to go grab a couple of skulls.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
So tonight's roundtable, we may as well get started because that was it for the news. It's a quiet week at Privateer Press.
Well, it's
Well, I
coming
mean,
up to
we could
Christmas.
say like what dragoons are you excited to play in Company of Iron?
The one I own. Actually, I don't own any. That's the worst part.
What?
I don't own a single dragoon.
Holy shit.
No dragoons and mercs. Yeah.
There's no dragoons and mercs, and I never bought.
You
the
used to
one
play
for,
Signar.
Yeah, I never bought the one for
Oh.
Signar, and I never.
Yes. You never played
I never.
Lattimore?
No, I never bought her. You
Oh.
bought her. I never
Yeah.
bought her.
Well, I guess you never played Stormlances. That's why.
No, not really. I didn't. I couldn't afford Stormlances when I played
Yeah.
Signar because
That's why one of my units
and
of
it was Mark
Stormlances
II.
looks like it does.
It was Mark II, so it wasn't
Yeah, it wasn't a big deal.
as like ball bustingly awesome as it is now.
I think Lattimore's really interesting with Stormblades or any of the Storm guys. The Kador Dragoon, I don't know. He seems like he would be good, but I haven't actually played him.
Well, I mean,
I-
what
I
about
like
you?
the idea of the Retribution one is the only one I have access to for my factions because Legion and Mercs don't have one. But he's like he doesn't seem all that great. I mean, he used to be awesome in Mark II because of the dual strike river, but he only has one attack now, so he's not super good. But he's still 4 points, which is just cheap, and he's a shield guard, and he's like armor 16 or 18 when someone nearby gets wounded, and he's like a PS 13 weapon master, which is just a pretty decent attack for 4 points. So he's enjoyed.
Yeah, well, having Shield Guard I found in Company of Iron can be critical because often you're going to have someone carrying an objective or something. Like there's one where you have to get a bunch of explosives onto particular objects, or there is, you have to carry something across a line or something like that. And being able to Shield Guard the model carrying the objective is really important.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, playing Company of Iron feels like playing Old Necromunda or playing any of those sort of GW small skirmish games.
Right.
Because of the objectives. It's not like in War Machine where you have an objective and it's their part of the scenario. This is pick up the thing, grab the thing, run away, like that type of thing.
Yeah, because what I watched of it, the injury rolls and stuff kind of reminded me of Blood Bowl a bit.
Except that if you fail an injury roll, it doesn't immediately stop your turn.
Yes, exactly. Which is pretty good.
Yeah, it is okay. So let's move on to the roundtable for this evening. Tonight's roundtable. The tough part about doing this roundtable is, I mean, there's just so many options. the reality is we're going to need to focus down on a few of the things that are common in our metas, and why we choose to put those things in our lists. It's relatively easy to understand how to, how you're adding mercs. It's just basically throwing in a point when you can. It's sometimes limited by the theme that you're in, whether you're only allowed to choose, 2 or 1 or whatever the case may be. But the question is why do you need to do that? And I think that's where you see people who are faction purists sometimes question that need. But I find that the more you play in tournaments, the more you play against people's better lists, the more you realize mercs can really fill in those gaps.
Yes.
And that's really where I find they shine. It's not like Mark II, where there's certain minions or merc units like Croak Raiders that just have to be in every list because they're so friggin' good. We're in a bit of a different state where most people have good infantry or good answers to this. Mercs, I think, shine better most with solos, but we'll talk about that a bit more because there are some units that are useful. So let's get started. If you have questions and if you want to make any comments, guys, who are watching the show live, go ahead and throw it onto the Moose Machine stream. We'll make sure that gets added in as well. So let's start with the factions that we play and which themes allow merc models within those themes. I play mercs, so it's all of them.
Or none of them.
Do you ever take
none of
non-mercs in your themes?
Yes, I do. The Lely's theme allows you to choose either Menoth or Signar.
Right.
You get to choose 2 units from either of those. And it has to be one or the other. You can't have one.
It has to be Signar or Manoth.
Or Manoth.
And also Crucible Guard as well. We don't know what any of that stuff is.
Yeah, when Crucible Guard comes out, that's going to be pretty awesome because it'll be.
I'm going so balls deep in Crucible Guard, guys.
I have I just got a mental image, and I want that going.
I'm still bitter about all my
think,
convergence
yeah.
models ending up in Crucible Guard. Or at least the ones we've seen so far.
All the ones that were designed for like the next 10
they
years.
look like
Well, the
convergence models so
far.
far.
So yeah, you're right. And right now, I've been playing focused mainly on getting Menoth in. Because
Well,
a lot of it
tried some Signar.
I tried some Signar. And I will. I'll do more. It's just it sang for me the first time, and it's still singing. So let's go over to Jason. Are there any Cricks or Legion?
Any mercenaries?
Legion, I don't really know because I'm waiting for them to get better.
To get good.
Cricks?
Legion
I
has
play,
the
it's
nobody
Cricks,
likes
so
them problem.
nothing else is really as good.
Harsh.
No, I'm just kidding.
We don't need them.
Well, that does actually bring up a good point in that there is a cost associated with bringing mercenaries for a lot of lists. In that, like, you're eating points away from your free stuff if you take them.
Yeah. The proposed change in CID to the Scourge of the Broken Coast theme, which removes Pathfinder from all the statistics, might make me want to put Saxon in there because I'm used to it now, so I want Pathfinder on everything.
You want Pathfinder back?
Yeah. So yeah, I might do that, or I might just stop playing that theme altogether.
Because it's
Wow.
stupid now.
No, it's pretty good.
Stupid statistics.
It's really good.
They're hard to pronounce.
But there's other stuff I want to play, so I'm gonna probably switch to Trolls.
Yeah.
After the new year.
And have you been looking at your troll list that you want to play?
I've been looking at some troll lists. They look like a lot of fun.
Well, and you were
But
talking about
I don't
putting
see a
some
lot
minions.
of mercs in them.
Minions, though?
Minions. Oh well, you wrong eye and
Yeah.
Snapjaw. You pretty much.
They're an auto include in a lot
Yeah,
of things.
I saw a list with wrong eye and Snapjaw and Madrak 1 and champions that are like
that makes me
Def
just
16.
angry.
Def 16
Oh
with
my
Starcross.
god, Starcross Def 16 things
Trolls that can't be knocked down. Yeah.
or hit.
Yeah.
If it's Def 16 Starcross, that's just you don't ever hit anything.
Yeah.
So, George, you've been playing quite a few factions over the last little while, trying out different things, trying to find the one that makes you happy. Scorn had some major changes to allow a lot more minions in.
Yeah, they have a theme in which you buy a minions army and then add your favorite Scorncaster to it, and it's now called a Scorn army. I'm not sure why it ended up in Scorn as opposed to minions with a Scorncaster, but I'm not gonna angry. It seems great.
I'm not gonna angry.
I'm not gonna angry at all.
What about
It's not like this is rocket surgery.
What
Come
about
on.
Kador? I mean, there are definitely some auto includes that go into Kador. What are the themes that allow merc units in them in Kador?
Merc units specifically,
or more Merc solos.
solos.
well,
or
see,
units.
there's a little weirdness in Khador. I think it's Jaws of the Wolf. Somebody will correct me if Bubba's still in the chat. One of the themes doesn't let you have characters,
Oh, okay.
so you can only take non-character mercenaries.
So like Dauber Tinker, and that's it.
Some of the units, theoretically, if you wanted
Steelheads.
them.
Yeah, I mean, there's some non-character
So
units.
that's
in
the reason that nobody uses Mercs in that
That's-
list.
Yeah, it's pretty restrictive.
In other lists, you almost always take at least something. You're going to end up with like Eilish. He just goes in everything because he's awesome. Or sometimes you're going to take like Ion and Holt if you're really like you're already playing Khador, but if you just need that extra level of crack.
Yeah, and we'll talk a bit about the specific models that we include in a second. But there are some lists in Khador that are allowing it, and now you're seeing Eilish and everything. Obviously,
Well, yeah, because he's amazing.
but yeah, and Nick, what about you with Legion, Mercs, Retribution? What are like are there lists that people are putting Mercs in those factions?
Ret's a bit of a special case because like they only have like
Because they
two-
hate everyone.
they only have 2 units they can take, Nis and Ion and Holt, I believe. Yeah, and there's only like a handful of solos like Lanissa, Eilish now, and like Madeline Corbeau and Silas. There's probably something I'm missing that I can't remember, but and like most of them are partisan. The only one that isn't partisan are Ion Holt and Madeline, and so like Brett's weird because you use like your Merc option to take Nis into a theme force, but then they count towards points if you get Retribution units towards points. So it's like they don't even have the downside of taking them as Mercs. They just count as Retribution, which is just really weird. The way partisan stuff works is weird, but. So it's Retribution has a much different thing than everyone else because they have like all these partisans that they can just stick into any list now, but they also have like 3 options. So, but yeah, I mean, I definitely thought about the Forges of War theme in Retribution is in dire need of infantry that actually does anything, and so taking Nis in there is great. And what else? I mean, and just being able to throw in Ion and Halt into any list that you need to. For like magic weapons or whatever, I mean that's the reason. Then that's nice to have. Although Red doesn't really suffer magic weapons because like every single Jack has magic weapons.
Yeah,
Magic weapons in red is not usually
not usually a problem.
thing you hear often. So-
Well, and that leads right into the main reason why we're like so we talk about gap fillers and not in a sexual way.
now I'm thinking about
Yeah.
it.
So
I wasn't before, but
now
suddenly
you are. So I mean,
Filling
basically
holes.
a lot of the so a lot of
you're
the
not
ti-
helping.
Poor Will.
Uh,
It's going off the rails, buddy.
it's off
By the way,
rails.
since we're already off the rails,
We're not really.
Winter Guard Command, no character solos. Legion of Steel, no character units.
So when we talk about creating those gap fillers and figuring out what they are, it's when we're playing against certain matchups. Let's say Ghost Fleet is a perfect example. You've
No,
got
it's not.
okay, because there's nothing that can fix it. Will it will just kill you anyway. But let's say, for example, you have no way to crack stealth in your list, or you have no way to add magic weapon in your list. Those 2 things can be a real game breaker if your best list can't deal with those 2 things, and suddenly it pops up as a regular part of the meta. Like let's say, whatever. There's a million reasons why you suddenly need magic weapons, or stealth becomes a real problem for you. The nice thing is that Mercs offers solutions to those problems. Easy, generally around a 4-point cost solution. Or Ion and Holt's a little more because it's 8 points for Ion and Holt, I believe.
They're a unit, not a solo.
And they're a unit. But let's say, for example, let's talk about some of the sort of things that solve problems. Like, for example, Reinhold is a great... If you need a way to get rid of stealth, Reinhold can do that for you.
Mm-hmm.
He's not going to solve it for everything, but he will get rid of
Is
one
the
stealth
worst
model.
way to get rid of stealth to spend 20 points on a battle engine?
Yes.
Like, can you include a mercenary
Definitively.
battle engine?
Well,
That
the
is worst
mercenary
way to
battle.
go.
Well, I don't know if it's the worst way if you've got other reasons to take that. 20 points is a lot to spend if you don't have
I mean,
other
hey,
reasons.
man, it's going to bring back at least 2 or 3 Forge Guard.
That's right.
That you don't have in your list because you,
need to
bought
have
a battle engine.
Exactly. You need the battle engine and a unit of. So you're now up to like 30 some odd points. all to get rid. I fixed this myself. That was a terrible idea. I would say Reinhold's probably. If
You think that's better?
Take that, you stupid 8-point stalker.
I spent 20 points.
Kill an 8-point stealth model.
I'm just gonna keep him back on the back of the board, and that's his only job.
Yeah, get rid of stealth. All right.
All right, so let's go around some of the things that
Now
are
that we've got the worst advice out of the way.
worst advice out of the way. Well, you talked a bit about Wrong Eye and Snapjaw, Jason. Why put Wrong Eye and Snapjaw on the list? What problems?
Starcrossed.
But what does it solve? What does it add?
It adds with high def things. It adds just another problem to add on top of that high def thing because you're getting rid of an extra die that is the highest out of what you've rolled.
It adds a proud middle finger
Yes.
to your opponent.
Yeah.
So we never got. I never got a chance to talk about Legion minion models,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
Wrong and Snapjaw are definitely one of those ones that
Yeah.
sees a ton of play. Like you could I could definitely see him being put into a Fiana list because that synergizes really well with their feet. The +3 defense plus Starcross is
Def
ridiculous.
17.
Pretty much any list with Rias because Starcross plus Rias means that you get a semi-reliable riposte action going on, and that's just as fun.
Is there any lists in Legion that have been altered in that update that allowed more?
Not a ton.
No.
Most people are still just trying to max out free points and stuff, so you don't see a lot of that. But at least some people were trying to do like Callus 2 with Croak Raiders as just another source of fire that you can just kind of reach out. Because if you can light things on fire from really far away, then Callus's feet kind of becomes a feat. Because you get like that extra threat extension and free charges and stuff. But having to light stuff on fire is just it's usually not worth it. But
Fraser just spoke up in the chat and said Starcrossed statistically roughly adds +2 defense.
See, it doesn't feel like that.
No,
I know
That feels way
statistically, I know statistically it only adds +2, but when you're watching that 6
just
disappear,
and the 1 and the 2 that you rolled, or
I don't know what it is about that spell, but it is the one thing that tilts me hard in this game.
I'm really looking forward to playing Calandra.
Oh my! Oh, it pisses me off.
Ashland's feat is amazing for that. It's just,
because you
what,
get to choose.
what for?
Yeah.
What? Why?
Yeah,
You can have
exactly.
that shitty one.
Yeah, you can have those. The 1 and the 2 you roll.
Those are yours.
That is the one thing that I would change in this game personally.
So
I would just get rid of shit that messes with my dice.
So overall, let's talk about some general Mercs and Minions models that are great auto includes. We've talked about Wrong Eye and Snapjaw. We've talked about.
So let's not beat around the bush here. Put Eilish in your list.
Step 1.
Put Eilish in your list.
Well, and you've been playing COC on and off, and Eilish is the first Merc you've been allowed to use, and it's like
my very first Merc.
so you were like, sweet,
my first Merc in 6 years.
he's in everything.
He is, as far as Convergence is concerned, he's basically you start off with a caster, and then you add a corollary, and then you add Eilish, and then you get on with list building. He is the only way outside of Lucan's battle group hitting something with a weapon to get rid of a spell. So when you get Crippling Grasp on your unit of reciprocators or something, and they're just boned for the entire game, he can get rid of that, which is amazing. Puppet Master is Puppet Master. Like, why do you not want it? You can screw over other people as well as putting it on your own stuff. That's one thing I will make. One thing that I think people should make more use of. A lot of people tend not to use Puppet Master offensively, but it is really good. It can be game saving when you're like, well, there is absolutely no way I'm going to be able to get away from that thing. But if I can screw over his charge attack, then I can totally do that.
Well, think about it this way: he's got Arcane Void, which means you can just negate a spell, which is fantastic in cases like what we were just talking about.
No, it's not. That's Arcane Vortex.
Okay,
Arcane
sorry.
Void just damages the caster.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
And it's not as good as you want it to be. It's the one.
Arcane Void is the one that hurts.
Right.
It's the other ability where he can remove.
Which is great.
Doctor, it hurts when I cast spells.
It's great against things like.
That's what I pee.
It's great against things like spellcasting solos and that kind of stuff, but not so great against defending yourself against an enemy caster like Denegra that just.
It is not going to stop Zaltu dumping 28 focus in.
However, he does have Unbinding, which can at least get rid of those upkeeps. Those
that's
nasty,
the important
shitty
one.
upkeeps that.
Yeah,
Um,
unbinding just to strip off enemy upkeeps on your important stuff, like what are some of the ones like Crippling Grasp, or the one that doesn't let you charge, and Harbinger has it. Yeah, there's tons of spells that you want to strip off your units before they have a chance to activate.
Yeah.
And I mean, Puppet Strings is also amazing, but it's like my secondary reason for bringing Eilish in most lists.
It's become, well, especially because with Nomads, with a lot of Merc, with a lot of my low mat stuff, it's become it's become a guarantor, or not a full-on guarantor. It's kind of a crutch, but it's become a much better way to actually make something happen if you really need it to.
A guarantor?
A guarantor.
Yeah. Also,
Guarantees something.
do
for
not
them.
ignore bleed.
Never heard that word before.
Oh, okay.
Do not ignore bleed.
Well, bleed is
Yeah.
great especially as that corner case spell where you're like you need to do magical damage to something or it will kill you. It's saved my ass more than once.
And his special ability, doesn't it allow you to like boost the damage on
Yes.
bleed?
Yeah.
I think it is.
No, the hit and the
Attack and
damage.
damage.
Oh, the
You
hit
can-
and damage.
You
okay.
take D3 points for each time you do it, but it's still because if you damage
hit
something,
or damage.
well, I believe if you damage something,
Well,
with
he's only got 5 boxes, so you can easily kill yourself if you roll good.
but here's the thing: I believe he also heals if he gets to
Yeah.
remove.
Oh,
die 3
yeah, that's
if
right.
he does the damage.
Yeah,
to
the way it's worded though is actually really shitty. It means that if you're full health and you cast bleed, you'll actually heal nothing because you're full health, and then you'll take the damage from the boosts because it actually resolves
Yeah.
after the attack.
The first
So it
time.
only really works well if you're already wounded, and then you
So you get to use it on your second shot.
Yeah.
get to use it on your second shot. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's risky though because you could not heal yourself enough and then end up killing yourself.
Yeah.
with the shot. So whatever.
it's
fine.
It's a risk reward thing for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, I do ignore bleed personally, but I mean his other abilities are definitely worth taking.
So let's ask the question: will Eilish get should we all crutch on Eilish, or do you guys see changes coming to Eilish in the future?
I don't see any.
I don't see any
shouldn't say
changes
that.
coming.
I think he's fine.
Yeah,
he's fine.
I think he's fine. The only reason you might see a change on Eilish is if somebody hasn't spotted something.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. That's the only thing I can see it getting changed. If he turns on something, like his little amount of damage is just enough to make something already damaged, and he always gets taken with a guy that has finisher or something like that.
Yeah.
If he's an opener for a finisher and it needs to get fixed in distance or something, but I think he's personally fine.
Yeah, I mean the thing is he's not breaking the game, but
No,
he is,
heck no.
he is offering solutions to everybody evenly across the board. You don't like Eilish, then don't. Then sorry, if
And
you,
I think that's a big reason why they made him available to everyone.
yeah,
Everybody has a way to
everybody
fix
that bought that
little...
no quarter.
Yeah, well, yeah.
You can still find those around if you look.
Yeah.
People have tried. They're
yeah?
there's a lot of people
They're
like
disappearing.
shouting on the internet to try to find one.
I mean, I'm sorry, but you had ample time.
Yeah,
to...
it's true.
They did.
So
They
let's
published it
sort
for a
of go
while.
across the spread. Nick, let's start with you. Name some of other than the ones we've already talked about. Name some of the problem solvers that are sort of your go-to. You keep on the shelves and you bring out in different lists.
I mean, one of the classic examples is like Piper and Saxon as your Pathfinder source, and Tough in the case of the Piper, or Concealment as well. Like he's amazing, obviously. But so like those are just kind of the basic ones that like any faction who has access to this guy, they own one and they put it in lists all the time because they want to give that Pathfinder.
Another classic would be Ragman, for when you
Sure.
absolutely have
Yeah.
to break armor right now.
Yeah.
Ragman will do that job.
Yep.
Now, yes, we know Crix has that on like every second
no,
model.
a lot of lists actually use Ragman because I mean, you get Dark Shroud in a lot of places. Well, in Dark Host at least, anyway. But not as many Crix casters have great arm debuffs. I mean, not like Denny does, right? There's a couple, maybe one or two with Parasite.
Yeah, and I mean, in this new world of themes we're living in, like every list doesn't have like a main unit of
Yeah.
Bane warriors in it anymore,
Exactly.
because you just can't do that with themes. You know, you can't mix and match your stuff that synergizes together anymore. You have to build
Yeah.
in themes now because otherwise you're playing like 20 points down. And so something like Ragman can come in and can give you back this debuff, armor debuff that you were lacking from before.
Yeah.
It was great.
What about looking at things like what was really popular for a while was Iris.
Yep.
Iris made her way into a lot of lists.
I still see her.
And you still see her quite a bit. It's Iris 1 that was showing up everywhere, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
No,
I've got a lot of seeing Iris 2 now as well.
Yeah, Iris 2 seems to be showing up. I think it's because Iris 1, they increased your point cost in Nerf a few nerfs back.
Mm-hmm.
But there you generally put Iris in. I can't remember which one you're putting in. I'm going to say 1 for now. Because Phantom Seeker means that you can ignore its stealth. If you're taking Iris 1, it's more of and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong on this.
Yeah, you're wrong with a lot of stuff.
Nick,
so
go ahead.
In Mark 2, Eris 2 was the ubiquitous Eris because she's the one that stripped upkeeps.
Yeah.
She no longer does that. She can shoot something with upkeeps on it, and the upkeep will stay down unless the caster takes D3 damage. So it's not very reliable because most casters are going to gladly pay that in order to keep their upkeeps up.
Especially if they've got an extra focus.
Yeah.
And alternatively, they don't care with the upkeep, and you're not doing anything important anyway. So you're either causing D3 damage to the caster, or you're not doing anything important.
Do you think Disruption is still worth it, though?
Yeah, Disruption is actually. So that's the reason why she was ubiquitous. She was ubiquitous for upkeep removal in Mark 2. In Mark 3, she's still decent, but it's not for upkeep removal anymore. I mean, you can still do it once in a while just to put some damage on the caster or to make them think about it. But what she's really good for is the Disruption bolt on her crossbow, like just disrupts jacks like nobody's business. It's really good. And also just she has the Witch Hunter ability. So against hordes especially, every time a beast casts an animus, it's a spell, and so she's like pop and just putting out shots into stuff, and it can be really good.
What about Iris 1? Why are we still seeing her?
Iris 1 is mostly for assassination because she still has that arcane hemorrhage, I think it's called, arcane something. Anyway, that when she shoots either a caster or a warlock, they drop their focus and fury, and then they die.
Yeah. So because you can't dump all that.
Yeah, and alternatively, she also has the deadly shot that just does 3 damage, and she also has the Phantom Seeker shot that just lets her ignore line of sight. And those are all really good shot types. So she's a really good just utility combat solo, and if she ever gets that shot onto an enemy caster, they're just dead.
Yeah. So what she has is Deadly Shot, which is gets her to tough and does 3 damage points instead. Disruptor Bolt, which if you have the
upkeep,
you don't get to upkeep. Or replenish focus next turn, and Phantom Seeker. Yeah. Okay. So that's the Irises. Are there any? Gorman. Gorman used to be seen a lot back in Mark II when he was really amazing against Colossals when he could.
And then they fixed blind.
And then they fixed blind. But are we still? Is Gorman included in anything anymore?
I have seen him across the table, but I've never felt the urge myself.
No.
Is there a reason to put Gorman in unless, I mean, is it if you need to lower armor on something?
Well, what I have seen him is part of the I need to crack armor with my army list. His Rust Bomb specifically is what I see him taken for. Convergence shoots him off the table as soon as he appears because he corrodes everything, and it pisses me off. But outside of that, I've never had the urge myself, but I have definitely seen him in Mark III.
Harlan Versh again is another spell casting thing, like to shut down some spells.
You mean Gallant's friend there?
Yeah, or if you just if you've got Gallant in a list, but
I have seen
happens.
I have seen
Yeah,
him literally.
I haven't seen much Harlan Versh either. Like I took him in a couple lists just to give Gallant focus for a couple times. Like back when I was allowed to play Gallant because of no team forces. Now I can't play him anymore. He didn't really seem worth it, honestly, because you could just give him focus instead, and you save 4 points.
What about Wishnailer outside of Mercenaries? Like he seems like sort of the auto include for Mercenaries. Just it's like, oh, I like not upkeeping one of my spells, but outside of that, you're having to spend outside of Mercenaries, you're having to spend what could be knocking you out of theme points to do one.
In Retribution, he's auto include as well because he's partisan.
Yeah, he's partisan.
But I mean, other factions. I mean, I think you see him a bit in Khador. But I mean, almost like Signar is just Squire all day,
all day, every day. Yeah.
Continuing right along. Is there any other? I mean, there's also some of those. There was a while where you saw a lot of these sort of sniper solos out there. The guys that could do single or triple auto damage to things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely played the like Alton Ashley Kel Balok combo a while. So like Kel Balok would go double tap 6 damage onto like a beast spirit, and then Alton Ashley would shoot it, cripple the spirit, and then it would also put Bruce wounds on, and that was pretty awesome. It was also why Alton Ashley was nerfed from 4 to 5 points.
The Boker used to show up.
Boker still shows up. I mean,
for factions that don't have access to shield guards,
but everybody does now.
Pretty much everybody does now.
Well,
Even Legion can take
shield
the
guards outside of Steel Phalanx, whatever. Outside of the Iron Fang theme, Khador loves them, the Bookers, but in theme you've got Sophia, so you don't really need it. And with Khador, you really don't want to spend your precious jack points on like a Mad Dog is the shield guard heavy that we have.
Yeah, the Rager. Yeah, it's like
Rager,
9 points or something, or is it 11 points? It's way too many points for a shield guard.
It's way too many points if its entire job is to eat 2, one shot a turn, where you could have a Bokur, you could have Sophia or something. Because usually you fix whatever stupidity allowed you to be shot the second turn. Yeah. Because, at least in my experience, a shield guard's entire job is to save you from stupid positioning once.
Yep.
Right? It's like, oh, crap. I put that in the wrong place, and now I need a shield guard.
What about Orin Midwinter? Are we seeing him in anything?
Oh, God. He's really good. I mean, if you need protection from spells, Eilish will put some little damaging on the caster that casts at you, but Orin will just stop them in their tracks. He has the Arcane Vortex, right? So he can actually stop the spells from being cast. So if you're afraid of Denny, then you probably then you could put him in your list, and then you could protect a number of models at least.
Well, and especially with unit casters who are very, very, very susceptible to model unit upkeep spells. I've seen him a lot. People when they were playing Kane 3 or testing out Kane 3 in Signar, they were playing him in there. They were playing them in when they were testing him in Mercs too, as a way to protect the unit. And I think that is a good corner case for that, because it's really hard to protect a unit. So let's talk a bit about actual Merc units. I would say in Mark II we saw a lot more of them. I mean, Boom Howlers were kind of an auto include in
I haven't seen Boomies in forever.
Well, they're just
now that I'm thinking about it. Like it used to be, you saw Boomies in every Signar list. They basically
I have some on a shelf.
Yeah. I just realized I haven't seen Boomies in forever.
Is there? I mean, other than Idrians, which show up a lot because they're partisan and they're Idrians. Other than Idrians, Kayazi, which are partisan models that are decent.
They're partisan Khador.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So you see them in Khador, you see them in Menoth. Are we seeing any units that are those gap fillers? Or, I mean, have they balanced the faction enough that most factions have the units they need? They don't need to go to Mercs to fix a problem.
Well, I think where you're seeing Merc units now are if they do something weird and special.
Like
Alexia.
Or Alexia.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some special unique snowflakes that are trying to run like the Devil Dogs in Signar.
Oh,
which is, I mean, the thing is, Signar runs Devil Dogs a lot better than Mercs do.
Yeah.
So that's actually not that bad. I mean, you put what's his name, Murdoch on there, and they're actually pretty legit because they can charge and shoot their nets and then shoot their guns, and it's pretty good. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I wish that Mercs could give them assault.
God damn it.
Yeah.
That is, I mean, that was, I played them a lot in Signar, but that was because I could give them assault. And assaulting boomies were actually pretty friggin' awesome. And they had, was it Go to Ground, which gave them a bit more survivability. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I don't see them. Alexia, are we seeing Alexia in the Risen in lists outside?
No, not really. Not since you can't put buffs on her anymore. Like when you used to be able to, put like, Fury on her, she could kill 2 heavies, then yeah, you'd see her all the time. But I rarely see her at all on the table at all.
I play her a lot in my Cephalix list, but that's because she's just a great way to gather souls. And you were saying something the other day, Jason, about was it you or maybe it was Mike was talking about putting. Oh no, it was in that Khador list that because you've got just so many bodies out there that are dying right off the top.
Oh yeah, we were thinking that
It's a great way to
maybe
just power her up.
Alexia 1 in Iron Tide, you could just, it's like, oh look, I lost 12 of these steelheads. Here comes Alexia.
Yeah, that is if you have a way to power her up, she's still great, but you need that. You need to basically be in a position where you're guaranteed to have a bunch of crap dying to make her great. Okay, moving on to minions. I don't see but maybe it's because we're not playing as much hordes as we used to play, which is odd. But are there minions that are go-to other than Wrong Eye and Snapjaw, which seem to show up everywhere?
I saw a incredibly weird and amazing. I guess it was actually a minions list, so I guess it doesn't count. But it was all the lessers.
Mm-hmm.
It was like Crackback and Lug and Snapjaw and Wrong Eye. And I was
You're
like,
desperate when.
Well, it was amazing to see. It looked like bring your kid to work day, right? So there's all these models, and everyone has next to it a great big model.
So let's ask a question: is there anything in the minions list that anybody considers a go-to? Other than Wrong Eye and Snapjaw,
I still see Swamp Gobber bellows for the extra
for
point
popping
or
smoke.
Yeah,
whatever.
for sure. Yes, the Swamp Gobbers are like the biggest thing. They're like auto included in a ton of lists.
Yep.
If only because they're just a 2-man unit you can use to control zones, and that's just super valuable. I mean, I think I've also seen a bunch of the penis heads around, the Efreet Scouts.
Yeah.
Yes.
Those guys could they will do a ton of damage. Like I really like those models, by the way.
Yeah.
They're cool.
Yeah.
They just have kind of penis-looking heads. That's all. But yeah, whatever.
I've never noticed that before, Nick.
Now you won't be able to. Now you won't be able to not see it.
Yeah, it's like they have the armor-piercing gun, right? It's pretty good. And then you take them in pairs, and they'll just destroy heavy jacks and stuff. They're pretty sweet.
We did talk about Saxon Auric. Alton Ashley we talked about a little bit as being if you need to guarantee a couple of kills on the board.
I've seen Lanissa for the threat extension.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Lanissa, she's key. Retribution as well, actually. I forgot to mention her before, but yeah, Lanissa is taking a lot of Retribution lists. Again, because she's partisan now, you can actually get her as your mark option and then get her for free, which is just silly.
Yeah.
I still think Gobber Tinkers are usable, and Gobber Tinkers are a Merc minion.
I have seen many a Gobber Tinker hiding behind his cart.
Well, they're just
trying to not
Camped
have
on
a
a flag.
zone. Yeah,
Well,
camped on
they're-
a flag, camped in a zone.
If you need a solo to camp, if for just that, they are very, very useful because they're hard to remove.
Yeah, the
And-
only thing better would be a Gremlin Swarm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gremlin Storm would be awesome.
Fraser in the chat mentioned Feral Geists. I
Yeah.
still see
Yeah,
a couple
they're
of
good
those. Yeah.
Yep, lots of feral
They
ghosts.
they don't really do much other than but they're a really great solo for just like capping a flag or something. They do have an attack now in Mark III, which is kind of weird, but you never really want to use it because you don't want them to die.
Exactly.
Yeah, Feral Geist you can still screw up, unlike the Crix one and the Goblin Swarm.
Yeah.
Okay, so last but not least, minion units. Are there any minion units that are go-tos right now?
I'm not saying go-tos, but I have seen more Croak Hunters in the last 2 weeks than I have ever seen before.
That's because we started playing against Chris, who's playing minions.
No, but I've seen them outside of him.
Oh,
as well.
really?
Yeah.
I think they are useful. I've seen min units and trolls, and I've seen Legion.
I've seen people trying to run like Feral Brigands as well. Like Feral Brigands I've seen in Scorn, and I've seen them in Legion, and it seems not bad. I mean, Feral Brigands with like Lilith 1, she makes them just hit like a truck.
Yeah,
it's pretty good.
Brigands, I think, win the award for being dragged down by their faction the most. Like they're an amazing unit that suffers from being a minion.
Okay.
Well, I think that's about it. I mean, really, I think the advice that we can give that's pretty simple is if you're missing something, if you're just being beaten over and over by something simple, like not having a magical weapon in your entire list, and you need to solve that problem, that's when you
get a caster.
Well, get Ian and Holt.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's the thing. I'm not ever going to encourage somebody not to try a caster that they love. If you love the way it plays, but every time you play against whatever it is, it's an auto lose for you. That may be when you look at what a Merc or minion can do to fix that problem. If it's that your high def stuff is still getting killed, look at Wrong Eye and Snapjaw.
Yeah.
If it's that you don't have a magical weapon in your entire list, or you're just not able to do enough damage, it's a good time to pop in Iana and Holt. If stealth is just crippling you every goddamn time, maybe take a look at Reinhold. Or if you just want an extra shot with your super balls out awesome gun,
Yeah.
that's another reason to take Reinhold in a list.
Reload is still a thing.
Reload is still, especially if it's an amazing gun.
Yeah.
Which there are a few casters out there that have like the 1 or 2 shot amazing gun that you're going to use every round. It doesn't hurt
It'd be
to
nice
get
to
it
just
out,
use it twice.
or 3 times.
Yeah.
Okay. So what I wanted to talk about, you may as well hit the button because it's time for Focus! Tonight's focus, we're going to talk about getting better on the clock. So come
Is this specifically
Why,
aimed
why
at-
did you invite me to this?
I was gonna say, is this aimed
Actually,
specifically at us?
No, it's the rest of your local meta have been talking about you, Nick. This is an intervention. We had this sign made for you.
Only
Mark,
Battle of the
Daryl, and
Armies for the
Castle
next-
messaged us
yeah.
individually.
Well, I think this comes up all the time. I had a really great game with Mike this week, and Mike clocked me, but he did a perfect job at just forcing me to use up grind time to solve problems, and that is
It's
a
a
perfectly
valid strategy.
Exactly. So what I wanted to talk a bit about tonight was advice on how to, when you're first moving from being a new player to suddenly having to play on a clock, which I encourage everybody to do early in their
Yes.
War Machine career.
Yes, I would say probably game between 6 and 10 is when you should start be playing on clock.
And it could even
Yeah.
be a 3-hour clock. I don't
Yeah,
care.
no, don't
But-
don't
Just
necessarily
have the
limit yourself.
pressure of time.
Yeah.
Time helps make this game sing. If you are completely open and without any type of clock whatsoever, there's going to be a point where you just want to go for ice cream because the game got real boring and you've lost on turn 7 8 times in a row.
Yeah.
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 Sometimes I like a long grind fest though.
Yeah, but
Just
isn't
like
it nice
3
to know that
hours
there's
of
an
just
end to
ridiculous
it?
bullshit.
But there's sometimes a real nice when you're like, at least it's going to end in 25 minutes.
You look at the clock and you're like, oh, my life just dripping away.
What do you think, Nick? You a big clock guy? You want to get that clock
Yeah,
on?
I think playing on the clock is really important. Particularly because especially when I'm trying out new lists, I play really slowly, and I continually clock myself over and over again. If anyone watches the live stream, they know that I clock myself all the time.
Yeah. Sorry, dude.
But I actually don't play that slow in tournaments. It's just when we're like on the live stream and fucking around, and
You guys talk
I'm
a lot
playing
too.
new
So
lists and that kind of thing. I definitely clock way more often. But yeah, it's just. It's really practice. It's reps is the main thing. If you play the same list over and over again, you will be faster with it. It just
Absolutely.
happens by itself. But also just like, and the other thing I've heard people recommend over and over again is if you're trying to practice and get faster, play on a death clock and with time turns.
Yes.
Just for yourself, and just play with both, and then you'll definitely start speeding up, especially those feet turns when you normally would take like 20 minutes and you only have 12. You really have to speed up and just do the important stuff and learn to not do everything. Learn to just do the important things.
One of the things that we've discussed quite often, Jason, because you've been trying more dude spammy lists.
yeah.
How do you get around the just burning time trying to move stuff? Do you have some tips for getting moving
I'm terrible at it. I'm terrible at it. Usually, in a non-tournament scenario, usually I find you can just, what I do anyway for play is just move maybe one of my front middle guys up as far as I can. If I'm just running, move him up as far as I can, and then just kind of
Cloud
ping pong
behind.
everybody else around him. In tournament play, I don't like to do that because
It just looks a little janky.
It looks a little sloppy. I like to play a clean game, and in a tournament, I think it's important. But other than that, like one of the problems I find with Scourge of the Broken Coast is because there's like 30 Statixis models and they all have 2 attacks. It eats a lot of time doing 2 attacks on 30 models. So it's better to do your high power attack or just, if you don't kill it, you don't think you're going to kill it, maybe just move on to the next thing.
Yeah.
Because you burn clock real fast. So like Nick said earlier, prioritize maybe, and just maybe if you miss a couple and
Have you ever heard of the gun approach?
No.
Okay, so this is something I don't know who taught me this. Treat a large melee unit like a gun. You don't throw the gun at someone. You fire bullets at them.
Oh, shit.
So the idea... I've been doing this wrong. No, so the idea behind this strategy is that you have your mass of troops farther back on the board, and you have, say, 2, 3, or 4 troops that fire out forward of the mass.
Yeah.
They do damage, and they screen the full mass from taking the counterattack.
Yeah.
But the idea behind that is you do that when you're playing attrition, because you can do some damage, you stop their movement, and you can just keep doing it every turn. Now, maybe if you're feeding or something, you've got a chance to move everybody in and do a bunch of damage. But sort of as a rule, you just do. You say, okay, what do I absolutely need to kill? I need to kill these 4 guys. Okay, I'm going to fire 4 guys at those, hold back the rest of the troop,
Right.
and then just keep going.
One of the things we've talked about on the show a few times is when to be polite to your opponent, and when your opponent is burning your clock on purpose. When it is polite to tap over to your opponent during your turn, and how to not do it too aggressively. One of the things I thought I'd mention is if your opponent has to do something on your clock, such as if they're rolling dice for any given reason, it's not impolite to clock over to them.
Yeah. My rule of thumb is 5 seconds. If I
Yeah.
can do a 5 count
fair.
in my head and they still haven't managed to finish whatever they're doing,
Yeah, if you're asking
I
a
tap it
rules
over.
if you're asking a rules question like what's your defense,
Yeah.
and it's taken then,
If it's taking more than a 5 count.
tap over to them. The important thing is again, this is a game of it's a game that you're supposed to be doing with friends, and it's a game that you're supposed to we're having a polite
Since
fun.
you guys do a lot of games on stream, Nick, how do you guys, like for tough checks and stuff like that, do you flip back and forth, or because you guys are fairly relaxed on those anyway, do you just
we're pretty relaxed, but basically tough checks I almost never flip over unless it's like an AoE just went off and they have to do like 5 of them,
Right.
kind of like that.
Yep.
But like generally, it's the only time I'll clock over is if someone is considering something. So if I move a model up, I'm like, hey, you're gonna add ammunition, and I'll clock over. If they don't say no right away, I'll clock over while they think about it, kind of thing. Because I mean, someone can sit there and think about it for like 30 seconds, and that's a bit too much.
Yeah.
And my rule of thumb is when the time is getting real narrow, like it's just not a big deal to go back and forth, especially if there's just a lot of, because you're both panicking. It's not a big deal. But as I said, as long as you're not being a dick about it and trying to burn their clock by clocking
Yeah.
over to them, I think you're fine. Especially if you're real low on time and you
If I got 15 minutes, my opponent's got a minute and a half. I'm
Yeah,
not going to care
probably
if he
not.
flips
Yeah.
it over
Yeah.
to me for
Yeah.
my tough
and you're not going to flip over to him on his minute and a half clock.
exactly.
to kill.
Or will
Yeah,
I?
I feel like that'd be bad for me, even though it's like strictly speaking correct that if he does a free strike and he has a minute left, you clock it over and all that. I mean, I usually wouldn't do that just because it seems shitty.
What's up, Jason?
I have a question.
Yeah.
Regarding,
Yes, those feelings you feel
well, that's not
are
appropriate
natural
for this
and
cast.
real, and there's nothing
like
wrong
climbing
with
the rope
that.
in gym class.
Regarding, since we're talking about clocks and end of game scenarios, what is the etiquette or actually official rule on when you're low on time? How much time does it take you to have a meaningful turn?
There's a difference between a meaningful turn and the minimum turn length.
Right. So what is the minimum turn length?
15 seconds.
Okay.
But that being said, in that 15 seconds, you're supposed to still have a meaningful.
Well, yes. Like if you can't. Sorry.
You can't just go click, click,
No.
click.
No, you
So-
have
I'm not
to,
doing anything. Click.
You have to burn at least 15 seconds.
Yeah.
You could theoretically sit there with your thumb up your butt for 15 seconds.
Yeah, I mean,
But-
you're not forced to do anything. You could just say, "All my models run," but then you have to just wait and watch the clock tick down 15 seconds and then clock over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
The last thing I thought we'd mention before we go into the lightning round is avoiding getting stuck in the tank, which is the clock, the clock killer. There is no way to stop it, I don't think, because even the best of players I've seen go, well, fuck.
No, there is one. It's reps. You
Yeah,
play the
that is
same.
true.
You say the same list or the same pairing every
Time,
week
time,
for 6
time.
months, and you will not go in the tank very often.
There you go.
Yeah.
So
Well, there's an official pose for the tank, right?
the
Over the
the plank, or
or
the plank,
Yeah.
the hand plank,
Yeah.
the gamer plank.
Exactly.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for Time for
Oh man, you gotta be
The lightning round.
All right, gentlemen. 10 of the most 10 reasonably difficult questions that involve this game. There is no Minty question. Minty's been curious.
MIA?
Worryingly quiet.
Worryingly quiet.
Bum.
We've all played the game before. We all know how this works. Buzz in. Nick, you may also want to raise your hand because sometimes these guys buzz so loudly that I can't see that you're answering the question.
Okay.
What is the range on espionage? George.
8 inches.
Incorrect, sir. And
10 inches.
incorrect, sir.
Shit.
5.
It is 5.
Oh!
Which
I
is
was
one
gonna
model
like-
we did not talk about tonight. Which
I was
was
like, you're going to say command. you
she's
fucking
like
bastard.
a trap model. 'Cause, we didn't talk about her tonight. We didn't talk
a
about
trap.
taking Anastasia. She's a trap. In more ways than one. Colby Sterling is the captain of what? George went first.
Black River Irregulars.
That is correct. Question number 3. What is Alton Ashley's defense?
14.
It is 14.
I was going to say too damn high.
Question
I
number
had to shoot him the other day.
Okay.
Question number 4. Haunting Melody is cost what?
Your soul.
George?
2?
It is 2.
That's the one on the girl on with the snake.
Yeah.
Snake, yeah.
Snake girl.
Snack
We're
girl.
gonna call her. Question number 5. The range
That's
of us. The
He doesn't
range.
get played anymore now that he can't fly.
The range on Starcrossed is what?
Too damn high.
Control.
It is control. Sorry, Nick. You were just a little bit behind him.
Yep.
Question number 6.
That's all right. I don't mind.
You.
Who can the Devil's Shadow work for? Nick.
Just Cricks.
Just Cricks.
Just great.
Oh, I was going to ring just the faction I play, but I was just going to be a smart ass. It would have been right.
And you would have totally been right. Question number 7. Idrian Skirmishers' hand weapons are called what?
Wait. Aren't they actually hand weapons?
No, they are
Oh,
not
okay.
hand weapons. What are they called? They have a name. They are a type.
There
of,
is a unit where the weapon is called hand weapon.
it would be pirates.
It's the pirates, yeah.
Copus. They're called Copus, or probably
This is a knife.
Kopis. I'm probably pronouncing it totally wrong. Question number 8.
Kopek?
Sigil
Daryl.
of Power does what? Nick.
Is it magic weapons?
That is the magic weapon. Model unit gains magic weapon.
Ah, nice. I was going to say it makes your sigil more powerful.
Question number 9. Who leads the press gangers?
I lead the press gangers.
Nick.
The last.
It is the Lass. Question number 10. Who becomes unit leader when the Gatorman Boker dies? Nick.
You pick a model.
It's actually the Shambler Grunt. The Shambler Grunt becomes one of the Shambler Grunts. But
Yeah,
yes.
well, yeah. I mean, you pick one of the Shambler Grunts. Yeah, whatever.
I was specifically looking for the word Shambler Grunt. No
All right,
point. I
whoa.
take away all your points. I'm just kidding. Actually, I think I got to recalculate. We might have to go back into the tape, but I think you two may have tied this
Ooh.
evening.
I wasn't paying attention. so-
Yeah.
But I won.
But Jason,
You guys tied. I won.
Jason won in life. That's
Actually, I'm going to say Daryl won. Daryl won.
all
Yeah,
right.
Daryl was doing really good
Yeah,
in
I
the
think
chat.
you did better than any of
Yeah.
us.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're just going to do some upkeep before we go this evening. First, but foremost, I need to thank the Wizards Tower for keeping the lights on and making sure that we get to go to the SOO every year.
Come out this Sunday at lunchtime. Play a World Ender tournament.
Ooh, a World Ender
Yeah.
tournament. Jason, anything going on in the world of Fraser?
Yes, there is. He's just about got the rankings finished.
Ooh, the ranking system.
Oh, yeah, he didn't tell me that.
Oh, okay.
That check.
All I know
I
is
pay attention to the Fraser
there
news.
is no Troll Blood Scrum tonight.
That bastard.
That's all you care about. Now that you're into Troll Bloods, you're like,
Yeah.
the scrum.
When's the
Where's
scrum?
my scrum?
Where's my
Yeah.
scrum at?
I want to get my scrum on.
Any cool events going on in your area there, Nick?
No, nothing. London's pretty dead right now.
Quiet for the winter.
Yeah, well, it's coming up to Christmas. All smart tournament organizers have stopped trying to organize tournaments where nobody can go because of Christmas stuff.
That is true. So we unfortunately will not be here on Wednesday next week. So those people that like to listen to the live show, what I would like you to do is tune in on Tuesday night at 7 o'clock we're going to be podcasting with Tim Banky to do a how to become a WTC player.
Yeah. So if you've ever wondered what the process is, like how you can prep to try and be on the Canadian WTC, we're going to do this podcast series called Road to the
WTC, and it's going to be in 3 parts. We're probably going to try to record 2 parts next week, and then the 3rd part following that. Bubba will be joining us for that as well. Jason's going to take a well-deserved break.
Well, no, I'm not taking a break. I was not asked to be a part of this.
He's going to be replaced by a lot of alcohol.
I just like to point it out that nobody asked me to be involved.
I told you could come if you wanted to.
So fuck you guys.
I told you could. I
don't want any part of your goddamn.
But I was like, Bubba's going to be there, and you and Bubba have a feud going on.
Oh, it's not so much a feud as a mortal
enemy
situation.
It was all because of that special night you two spent together.
Well, he didn't even.
He didn't call you.
He didn't even call me the next day.
He didn't brush his teeth beforehand.
He certainly did not. He reeked of chocolate milk and Cheetos.
This is
He always does.
This is
He
taking a
always
death
does.
spiral of doom. All right, so yeah, you can join us for that next week if you want to. It will be a bit of a different format because we're literally just going to be talking about that. But of course, we'd love to have you all watch the live show. It'll be on the Moose Machine Network, and then we're going to cut it down into a nice little podcasty format.
And we're going to advertise that ahead of time.
Yep, absolutely. And last but not least, I want to thank Muse on Minis for making sure that our show and many, many other shows out there are on the air. Is Combo Smite going to be doing anything coming up there, Nick? Do you guys want to do a little promo for
we're on a bit of a hiatus at the moment because our normal streaming location, which is my apartment, is all being packed up because I'm moving to a house in mid-December. So we're probably going to have no more Combo Smite streaming until like January.
Fair enough.
So yeah, nothing going on.
All right, guys, that's it for us for this evening. Thank you very much, everybody. Dice down.
Dice down.
Thanks, Nick.
Moose Machine.
Yeah.
And
You
this
can't
Death
wait
Rock
for your own
60
goddamn
minutes is a proud
closing.
part of the I gotta go to the bathroom.
I really gotta pee. Damn it.
There's 2 bathrooms up there.
Watch
Oh,
the
okay,
show
cool.
live every Wednesday
But
night
you won't
at
go.
I'm not going to
8
leave
Eastern
Nick here alone with
on
you.
Twitch. You can get in touch with us on our Facebook page. Just Google Moose Machine. If you can't
Drop those
find us,
dice.
you're doing the internet wrong.
Should I let this finish or?
No, Jesus, that's long enough.
This is most